A business can hit a record month and still leave its owner staring at the ceiling at 2 in the morning. The sales numbers look incredible. Customers are coming in. Orders are moving. The team is growing. The company has finally reached the size the owner once dreamed about. From the outside, it looks like success, but inside the business, something else is happening. Every new customer needs support. Every new employee needs management. Every new product creates another process. Every new location creates another set of bills. Every increase in revenue creates pressure to keep that revenue coming next month. The company is getting bigger, and somehow, the person who built it has less time than ever. That contradiction sits at the center of a strange part of entrepreneurship that rarely gets shown. People talk about how difficult it is to start a business. They talk about the first customer, the first sale, the first $1,000, the first employee. Then, eventually, the story reaches the exciting part: growth. But growth has a price, and sometimes the price isn't visible until the business is already too large to easily change. When a company is small, everything is simple because one person can hold most of the business inside their head. They know which supplier answers the phone. They know which customer always pays late. They know which product sells best. They know where the extra inventory is stored. They know which employee can solve a problem without being asked. If something goes wrong, there isn't a committee. There isn't a meeting. There isn't a chain of approvals. There is just the owner. That simplicity is incredibly valuable, but it doesn't scale forever. Imagine a small company that sells a product online. At first, the owner receives 10 orders a day. 10 orders are manageable. Then it becomes 50. Still manageable. Then 200. Now the owner needs help. So they hire someone. Then another person. Then a warehouse. Then software. Then customer support. Then accounting. Then management. The company has solved the original problem. It can now handle more customers. But it has created a new problem. The business itself has become complicated. This is one of the hidden costs of success. The cost of complexity. Complexity doesn't always appear as a large invoice. Sometimes it appears as 5 extra emails. A meeting that lasts an hour. A customer complaint that has to pass through 3 people. A spreadsheet nobody completely understands. A process that only one employee knows how to perform. A decision that used to take 5 minutes, but now takes 5 days. None of those things look dramatic, but together, they can consume enormous amounts of time. And time is one of the most expensive resources a business has. A company can buy another computer. It can rent another building. It can borrow money. It can hire another employee, but it cannot buy yesterday back. That matters because business owners often discover that growth changes what their job actually is. At the beginning, the owner might be a creator. They make the product. They speak to customers. They design the service. They sell. They solve problems. As the company grows, that person slowly becomes a manager, then a recruiter, then a financial decision maker, then a problem escalator. Eventually, they may spend more time managing the people who do the work than doing the work themselves. For some owners, that transition is exciting. For others, it feels like losing the reason they started. They didn't start the business because they wanted to attend meetings all day. They started because they were good at something. Maybe they could cook. Maybe they could design. Maybe they could build software. Maybe they understood a market nobody else understood. But success can take them further and further away from the thing they actually enjoy. And that distance can become expensive. There is another misunderstanding hidden inside business growth. Revenue feels like money. It isn't. A company can generate millions in sales and still have very little left after paying for everything required to create those sales. Take a company doing $5 million in annual revenue. $5 million sounds enormous. But that number has a long list of people waiting behind it. Employees need to be paid. Suppliers need payment. The landlord needs rent. The government collects taxes. Insurance companies need premiums. Banks and payment processors take fees. Software companies charge subscriptions. Advertising platforms need money. Shipping companies need money. Equipment needs maintenance. Customers request refunds. Products get damaged. And then something unexpected happens. A machine breaks. A shipment disappears. A major customer cancels an order. A supplier raises prices. A competitor launches a cheaper product. A key employee resigns. Suddenly, the impressive revenue number looks very different. This is why cash flow can matter more than a flashy sales figure. A business can look rich on paper while struggling to pay its bills at the right time. And the larger a business becomes, the more money can get trapped inside the operation. Inventory is a good example. A growing company may need to buy more inventory before it can sell anything. So sales increase, but the company has to spend cash first. The more it grows, the more inventory may need. That means success can sometimes create a strange financial pressure. The business needs money to grow, but growth itself consumes money. This is why some owners experience a strange moment when sales are rising and their bank balance still feels uncomfortable. They aren't necessarily doing something wrong. The business may simply be getting larger than the amount of cash it can comfortably support. Then there is payroll. Hiring employees is one of the clearest signs that a company is becoming successful. But an employee isn't just a salary. There are taxes, benefits, training, equipment, management time, recruitment costs, and the cost of replacing someone when they leave. And every new employee changes the structure of the company. One employee can solve a problem. 10 employees create coordination. 50 employees create management. 100 employees create an organization. Those are very different things. The owner who once knew everybody personally now has layers between them and the people doing the work. Information changes as it travels. A small problem may be filtered through several managers before it reaches the person who can fix it. The owner might receive a report saying everything is fine. Meanwhile, someone on the ground knows something is going wrong. This is another hidden cost of scale. Distance. The bigger the company becomes, the harder it can be for the person at the top to see what is actually happening. That doesn't mean large companies are badly run. Many are extremely well organized, but organization itself costs money. Systems have to be designed. Processes have to be documented. Managers have to be trained. Performance has to be measured. Meetings have to happen. Technology has to be maintained. The company has to protect itself from mistakes that a smaller business could simply fix manually. This is the price of becoming a machine. And once the machine exists, it has to keep running. That creates another problem. Fixed costs. A small business may have a bad month and respond by spending less. A larger company often can't. The rent doesn't disappear. Payroll doesn't disappear. Software contracts don't disappear. Insurance doesn't disappear. Debt payments don't disappear. The business has obligations even when customers don't show up. This changes the psychology of the owner. When a small business loses a few customers, the owner may feel disappointed. When a large business loses a major customer, the owner may immediately start calculating how many jobs, contracts, or expenses could be affected. The company isn't just a business anymore. Other people's lives are connected to it. Employees depend on paychecks. Families depend on those employees. Suppliers depend on invoices being paid. Customers depend on products arriving. Investors may depend on the company growing. That responsibility can change the way owner thinks about risk. A decision that once felt exciting can suddenly feel dangerous, and that can create another hidden cost: fear. Not the dramatic kind, the quiet kind, the kind that makes someone check the bank account before going to sleep, the kind that makes an owner hesitate before taking a vacation, the kind that makes a record month feel less exciting because next month's target is already waiting. This is where business success can become psychologically strange. The goal keeps moving. At $10,000 a month, $20,000 sounds incredible. At $20,000, the target becomes $50,000. At $50,000, it becomes $100,000. At $100,000, the company may need a bigger team. Then the bigger team needs more revenue. The owner reaches the number they once dreamed about, but instead of feeling finished, they feel responsible for protecting it. Success becomes something that has to be maintained, and maintenance is often less exciting than growth. Nobody celebrates a company because its systems work normally for another year. There is no headline for nothing went wrong, but that is often what a healthy business is supposed to achieve: reliability. The company keeps delivering. Customers stay satisfied. Employees get paid. Bills get paid. The owner doesn't have to personally fix every problem. That kind of success is quieter, and because it is quieter, it can be underestimated. Another hidden cost appears when a company grows too quickly. Hiring too quickly. Opening locations too quickly, buying equipment too quickly, taking on debt too quickly. A business can become committed to expenses before it knows whether the new revenue will last. Suppose a company has an unusually strong year. Sales jump. The owner assumes the growth will continue. They hire more people. They lease a larger building. They buy equipment. They increase advertising. Everything is based on the expectation that next year will be even bigger. Then the market slows, sales return to normal, but the expenses don't. The company is now carrying the cost of a business designed for a larger future. This is how growth can turn into pressure. The problem isn't that the company expanded. The problem is that the expenses expanded faster than the business could safely support. This happens in large companies too. A new product looks promising. Money is invested. Teams are created. Marketing begins. The product launches. Customers don't respond. Now the company has to decide whether to keep spending or admit the idea isn't working. That decision is difficult because money already spent feels important. People have invested time. Executives have made promises. Employees have built careers around the project. The company wants the investment to succeed. But a business cannot recover money simply because it wishes it had been spent differently. Sometimes the smartest decision is to stop. And stopping can be expensive too. There may be contracts, severance, unused inventory, broken partnerships, lost time. This is why business success requires more than selling something people want. It requires knowing when to continue and when to stop. There is also a cost that customers rarely notice: the cost of maintaining quality. A small company might have one person checking every product. As orders increase, that becomes impossible. So the company creates quality control systems, samples are inspected, processes are standardized, employees are trained, mistakes are tracked, suppliers are evaluated. All of this protects the customer, but all of it costs money. And the larger the brand becomes, the more expensive a mistake can be. A small company with 10 unhappy customers might survive. A large company with a public failure can face thousands of complaints in a single day. That creates pressure to build stronger systems. Again, success creates a new problem that requires another investment. Then there is marketing. Many businesses discover that getting attention is only the beginning. Customers have more choices than ever. Competitors copy successful products. Advertising becomes more expensive. Brands fight for attention. A company that once grew through word of mouth may eventually need paid advertising just to stay visible. The business can become dependent on spending money to acquire customers. And if the cost of acquiring a customer rises faster than the profit that customer generates, growth becomes dangerous. The company may be selling more while creating less value from each sale. That is a trap because the outside world sees the sales growth. The inside team sees the shrinking margin. This is why business owners have to look beyond the biggest number on the dashboard. The headline number is often the easiest one to celebrate. The harder numbers are the ones that reveal whether the company is actually becoming stronger. How much does it cost to serve a customer? How much cash is tied up in inventory? How long does it take to get paid? How dependent is the company on one supplier? How dependent is it on one employee? How much of the owner's time is required to keep the company operating? These questions aren't glamorous, but they determine whether growth is creating freedom or creating a larger cage. And then there is the owner's personal life. This part rarely appears in business case studies. A business can consume evenings, then weekends, then vacations. A phone becomes something that can ring at any time. An email marked urgent can change the mood of an entire day. The owner may technically be away from work while still thinking about work. There is always another problem. Another target, another decision, another customer, another employee issue, another bill. The company may be profitable. The owner may still feel trapped. That's why the phrase successful business can be misleading. Successful according to what? Revenue, profit, company valuation, number of employees, market share, or the amount of freedom the owner actually has. Those measurements can tell very different stories. A company worth $20 million may require its founder to work every waking hour. Another business worth a fraction of that may generate steady income with a small team and little daily involvement from the owner. One looks more impressive, the other may feel more successful. There is no universal answer. Different owners want different things. Some want to build enormous companies, some want a lifestyle business, some want to sell their company, some want to keep it in the family, some simply want enough income to control their time. The mistake is assuming that every business should chase the same version of success, because the cost of growth depends on what you want the business to become. A company designed to grow aggressively needs systems that can handle aggressive growth. A company designed to provide stable income may not need those systems. The problem begins when the business grows because growth feels like proof that everything is going well. Growth is not proof, it is a condition, sometimes a good one, sometimes a dangerous one. The question is what the growth produces after the additional costs are paid. That is the number that matters. Because if revenue doubles, a profit barely changes, the business may simply have doubled its workload. If employees double but productivity doesn't improve, the company may have doubled its management burden. If customers double but support problems triple, growth may be damaging the experience that made the company successful in the first place. This is why some businesses intentionally choose not to grow. From the outside, that can look strange. Why wouldn't an owner want more customers? More revenue, more locations, more attention? Because more isn't always better. A larger company has more opportunities, it also has more things that can go wrong. A smaller company may be easier to understand, easier to control, easier to change, easier to sell, easier to step away from. That can be incredibly valuable. The ideal business may not be the biggest one. It may be the one whose economics make sense, the one that can survive a bad month, the one that doesn't depend on a single customer, the one that doesn't collapse when the owner takes a week off, the one that produces enough profit to compensate for the risks and enough freedom to make the work worthwhile. That is a different definition of success, and it explains why two business owners can look at the same number and see completely different things. One sees an opportunity, the other sees a warning. One sees growth, the other sees complexity. One sees another location, the other sees another lease. One sees 10 new employees, the other sees 10 new salaries that have to be paid every month. Neither is necessarily wrong, they are simply looking at different things. The strange thing about success is that the finish line keeps moving, but it doesn't have to. A business owner can choose a different definition, one where the company doesn't exist simply to become larger, one where growth is useful only when it creates something better, more profit, more stability, more freedom, more control. Because the easiest business to celebrate is the one that is growing. The harder one to recognize is the one that is growing in a way its owner can actually live with. That may mean fewer headlines, a smaller office, fewer employees, fewer products, less no's, but it can also mean something much more valuable. The owner can close the laptop at the end of the day and know the company will still function tomorrow morning. The bills are covered, the customers are served, the employees know what to do, and the person who built the company still has a life outside of it. That may not be the loudest version of success, but it might be the one that costs the least to keep.